6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Dunn.
That's my fault. I regret
What's
the-
going on here?
Are you Supervisor Nudo?
Here.
Supervisor Brookhoff?
Here.
Supervisor Gama?
Here.
Supervisor Gaskey?
Here.
Supervisor Geertsen?
Here.
Supervisor Kirby?
Here.
Youth and Governance Megan?
Here.
Youth and Governance Savannah?
Here.
And Youth and Governance Ben.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the meeting up to citizens' comments. Any citizens wishing to speak? Any citizens wishing to speak? Any citizens wishing to speak? Seeing none, citizens' comments are closed. Reports of the chairman. I don't have any reports from the committee. Anybody on the committee have any wise words for us? Seeing none. Approval of minutes, November 13, 2025, joint meeting with JLEC and regular meeting.
I move both minutes from November 13th.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Gaschke, seconded by Supervisor Kirby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. CAVA Q4 loan report. Brock, you're up.
Evening. Brock Portillo with Cava. Here to go through the Q4 loan reports. Couple things to point out here in the very first fund, the EDA revolving loan fund. In that 205 of principal and interest received, that does include one payoff in the fourth quarter of 2025, which was Kitchen Cubes, located up in the Bristol Industrial Park. And then we did have two new loan disbursements in the fourth quarter. I think we've talked about these in the past, but those were closed. Though that $1 million was split, it's supported the Centrisis expansion, which represented about a $10 million capital investment. They expanded their operation by 50,000 square feet. And this loan helps support the building and the equipment expansion, supports the growth of 25 jobs, which brings their total headcount to approximately 180. The other piece of that is Balkan USA. We did a major equipment expansion in their facility in Pleasant Prairie. This expansion project represents about a $68 million capital investment in equipment expansion. It adds another 60 jobs to their headcount, which brings them to about 125 total once that is fully up and running. On the next loan fund, EDA Cares, very similar story there. The 1.6, that was again 800,000 to each the Centrisis and Balkan. So there's a total of $1.6 million loan to Balkan, $1 million to the Centrisis expansion project. In the county revolving loan fund, we'll note we do have one pending commitment that is it's now approved and going through kind of the loan closing process. Say like this isn't announced yet, but I'll say it supports an existing business that's adding 12,000 square feet to their existing facility. It'll add somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 jobs, which would bring that company's total to 100. Obviously, when that closes, I can share more information at that time. In the high impact fund, I'll say the 5,000 is we've talked about this in the past, but we are in the process of recovering the 200,000 that was awarded to Stabio North America, which is now Spartan Fasteners. So we've got about a 3-year window where we will recollect those funds. And then there were two new loan disbursements in the fourth quarter. 150 of that was to the second installment to Concept Laboratories, which is a cosmetic skincare manufacturer in Pleasant Prairie. That project represented about a $34 million capital investment. And the job total there is 177 once that gets fully up operational and running. they took occupancy of a vacant building that was 196,000 square feet. The other,
I said that's nice, sorry.
okay,
And I'm sure they'll will hear me say that, but I just, it came out of my mouth as I thought it. I apologize.
Oh,
Continue with your good news.
all right. The other good news is the $250,000 award to ERMCO Components. They took, acquired, build out and equipment of 160,000 square foot facility in Bristol. This represents about a $35 million capital investment and will add 200 jobs, as part of that. We do have a, 200,000 that is pending, that is currently going through the approval process. Those have not been announced yet. But as those close, obviously I'll have more information to share at that time. One other kind of good news story to the ERMCO Components. For those that don't know, ERMCO is a manufacturer of liquid filled transformers and power solutions, which is great to have that in our backyard. They've really entrenched themselves in the community already, and made some very nice financial contributions out in the western part of the county to Westosha and Westosha Central High School and the Bristol School Districts, supporting their STEAM programs, science, technology, engineering, arts, math. So great to see that they're, just really being, strong corporate citizens here right off the bat. Two other brief things to note, and then I'll stop. One is we are currently going under,
What?
that was not the right words.
Oh,
Undergo.
I'm actually listening to you here.
The annual financial and single audit is currently underway. At CABA, they're wrapping up their second week of field work here now. So obviously we'll share those results with you, when we have them, but, so far so good. Of course, that's always, the expectation, but good to get that reassurance and show everybody here that what I'm telling you is accurate. And the other comment I would just say is, like, probably a lot of activity here in the fourth quarter. We had just kind of generally seen a little bit of an uptick in loan activity. I just kind of share that because, for a number of quarters here that the low interest loan activity has been a little slow, and I've kind of emphasized, like, just gotta be patient, gotta stay, diligent, prudent with the funds, and we're starting to see that. So that's, I think, an encouraging sign. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions.
Anybody on the committee have any questions? Okay, well, I do. So how many jobs I know you can't discuss what the companies are that are pending, but approximately how many jobs are we looking at adding with the companies with these pending transactions? Roughly?
I do. Between the two projects, 150, 160, one is the target goal will be 77 jobs, and off the top of my head, I think the other one is 88.
Okay,
So
okay.
155.
Well, that's good.
I'm doing
That's
that
good.
correctly.
So I
65, I think.
I think business and what our mission is and what we're looking to accomplish is kicking back up, and we're working really well and continuing to draw business into the area. So I guess I'm happy with that, and I have been through the whole course of my time here with the county. So, what would you say as far as how do we compare to other areas in Southeast Wisconsin and, area? How are we area wise? Do you think we're doing as good as other areas? We're excelling. What would your comments be?
Yeah, I think, like in terms of business attraction and.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think like we see this annually, like at the county bond rating presentation, that the growth and investment and job growth, like all of those things are very positive for the industry. I think one of the things that we get is like we see is like our head count, like our population head count isn't trending upward as quickly as job growth and some of those things. So
Say we're the hottest portion of the entire state.
That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah, good, way to go.
that's why I brought. Yeah.
Good call.
Are you broad?
Can you see anywhere, I mean, we're gonna talk to Jason here about housing. Can you see any other needs or anything that we might be a little bit challenged on as we attract these businesses?
Labor force, probably feeds directly into the population, housing, things like that. But I think the county as a whole is very well positioned, to continue to attract and support business investment. There's plenty of shovel-ready dirt. There is a plethora of spec buildings, constructed over the last several years. I think 23, 24, there's somewhere around 5 to 6 million square feet of spec, which is really like unprecedented. So I say that to say like, we've got a good supply of inventory and we're ready when companies want to come here. And there's still plenty of vacant dirt to continue that growth. So I think let's say we're well positioned. Probably labor
And labor and housing is,
probably the biggest challenges that we hear, like as we're, when we're going through these business recruitment or expansion efforts, those are probably the top things that we hear.
Thank you for your report.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jason, please assume the hot seat, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Peters. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development for CABA. I haven't been in front of the county committee meeting in a while. So don't know, I used to be with the Village of Summers, so it's nice to be back in front of the committee meeting here. So I'm here tonight to give you an update on the Kenosha Housing Task Force. So the task force started about just over a year ago. It's a partnership between CABA and the county to address the housing shortage that we're seeing. But Kenosha County is really no different than any place in Wisconsin right now, really anywhere in the country. We're all experiencing difficulty having housing developed in our communities. So just for example, I pulled a stat before I came. So in 2024, the median average cost of a house in Kenosha County was $285,000. Last year, the median price of a house was $307,000. So just in 1 year, the price jumped up over $22,000. And that doesn't seem to be changing. So this task force is just kind of a way to see what we can do together to try to address some of these issues. So is the next slide. As a part of the housing task force, we've got 3 work groups. We have a financial tools work group that's their goal is really to, find ways to address housing development costs, whether that's with TID support, community land trusts, or finding ways to help subsidize development. We also have a planning, zoning, and design standard group. That one's actually, and these are run by different people. Sorry. So financial tools, that's my group. Planning, zoning, and design standards is a group that's head up by Andy Bueller. So you're director of planning and zoning. So that group's goal is to look at ways to streamline the development process and look at zoning ordinances. See if there's anything that can be done throughout the county to help loosen up those standards. Finally, we have what we call a promotions group, which is run by Savannah Myers. So she's your UW Extension employee. And just a quick plug for that. We can't thank the county enough for funding that position because Savannah's work She does all sorts of stuff for the county, but for the housing task force, she's been invaluable. She's a great asset to us in the county. So that group, try to find ways really to get out in the community about the housing shortages, what we need, what's going on, and, ways to promote Kenosha County to developers around locally and across the country. Just a few updates. The next slide. So, between November 2024 and June of 2025, the work groups all met and they created what we call action plans for each group. So on the corner, on the right corner there is just kind of an example of a portion of one of the action plans. In June of 2025, all the work groups came together again to share their progress and share what they've come up with their action plans. At that group meeting, we had a presentation from the Kenosha Achievement Center. They completed what's called the Livable Kenosha Coalition's Community Survey Report. It was a report that addressed housing challenges for older adults and individuals with disabilities. And then we did a presentation from UW Extension on community land trusts. If you're not aware of those, it's just it's a way for groups to own land and basically subsidize the price of land during development. Next slide. So the financial tools work group, we've been meeting since 2025. So we're trying to identify opportunities to lower the risk for developers, explore options for public-private partnerships through revolving loan funds or TID education, explore programs to assist in different ways to acquire land for developers, and explore current and innovative homeowner assistance programs. And then as part of that group, I personally would meet with a lot of developers to find out what sort of programs we could come up with to help maybe spur some more different types of developments. The planning, zoning, and design standards work group. So they've basically been meeting to basically look at each community's development process and permitting process and try to find ways to streamline those and find ways to better educate developers on how those actually work. And the promotions group, one was led by Savannah. So we've working on creating what we call a housing definition document. So it'll be a document that'll basically be given out to the entire task force to kind of standardize what housing terms we're going to use. Because you might hear the word affordable housing, and that has a very different meaning depending on who you talk to. So we'll come up with these different definitions and agree on what our definitions are going to be. And we're also creating a housing type document. So we'll go through and we'll explain what different housing types are available out there. So like single family, duplexes, there's a different one called like cottage style. So just get those out there so people understand what different types of options are out there in the country that maybe we haven't seen, and show those to different people. We also find different ways to get out and educate elected officials on what type of housing is out there too. So some of the highlights of 2025, we went thanks to Joe over there. We went live with our Kenosha County Housing Task Force website. That's housed under the planning section of your county website. So that's just got different information on what's been going on with the county task force and a lot of studies that have been done. We have housed there, and then some of these documents that I've talked about will be housed there as well. Also, thanks to the county GIS, they developed what we call the Development Opportunity Investigator. That's also on your website and on the Housing Task Force website. What that is a really cool tool that will allow developers to go to. They can find a piece of property. It'll show you what the zoning is, how far it is away from utilities, and what the comp plan is. So it's a great tool for them to say, I'm looking at this piece of property. Is this one worth my time trying to develop? We held they're called CLUE, the Center for Land Use Education. It was an interactive training session for planning commissioners and trustees and board supervisors to come in and basically it's a game to learn about how zoning can affect where housing can go. Savannah presented to the Council of Governments on what we've been doing. And our task force was one of several featured at the annual WIDA conference. And what's in store for 2026? So our work groups are continuing to meet and working on their action plan. We're also working towards doing a comprehensive housing study. Is one of the questions we get constantly is what sort of units do we have here and what do we actually need? And with actually having somebody go out and do that work, it's impossible just to, you can't just Google that one or use ChatGPT and find out what exactly we need. So we met with several different firms that do these, and I'm hoping we'll have a pretty cool announcement about that coming in the next couple of months. Our entire task force will reconvene later in the year to give updates on what each group has been doing, what progress has been made. And on our website, that Kenosha County Housing website, we'll be publishing some of these documents that I talked about earlier, that promotion groups have been doing. And then just one last thing, will also be, Savannah's been working on a regional housing task, or regional housing summit. And that's, we'll be hearing some more about that, but it'll be in May. So if anybody would like to attend that, maybe help there as well. All right, you got any questions? Your names or?
Supervisor Nudo, you have one.
Did you say it's gonna be in May where?
It's gonna be held in Milwaukee. And that's gonna be all the southeast region.
My other question is, we go back to promotions and public education. Find local elected official education opportunities.
Mhm.
Could you, for a little bit, goes into that, what do you mean by that? Would this be the same or part?
Yeah,
That one?
that's kind, yes.
What else would you include it in?
Well, the biggest thing will be once we get, I think like when we get one of these, when we have this housing definition document out there, will be an opportunity, we'll probably try to come to a county board meeting and go over some of that. To bring that to you, go out to all the, the villages and the towns and go over some of that stuff and give them updates on this as well.
Basically, it's what, on the local level or just expanding to regional or state?
Mostly local. The biggest one will be once we get, if we have this comprehensive housing study done, it's gonna be an amazing tool for every one of our communities. And once we get that done, that'll be a great tool that we can use to go out and educate all the elected officials on what housing we actually need. Cause, in my former life, when I was with Summers, when I was there was a lot of multifamily, I'm sure you've all seen that multifamilies. That's the one product that is out there a lot. And when somebody new comes in, it's like, well, we already have a lot of that. But even though we've done a lot here, there's still a big need for that area. So I'm kind of think that it's one of the areas that the housing study is going to say is like, listen, the county's been doing great on this product, but you still have a deficiency.
Supervisor Gearston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason, who initiated this? How did this get started? This is very impressive.
I think it was conversations between the county exec and our president. Because, in our role, you just talked about it and Brock gave you a great update on all the jobs that are coming to Kenosha County. We have a lot of jobs that come here, but a lot of people that work here actually don't live here. And it'd be nice to have some of the economic development benefits that them actually living and working here as well. Just one thing I'll throw out, and interesting when we're going through the process of trying to find somebody for the comprehensive housing study, is one of the groups told us that back to multifamily. So, we've done great with multifamily here. But one thing that they find is that a lot of people that live in those don't work here because Lake County has not done any multifamily in decades. So all the people from Lake County are like, oh, there's brand new nice things in Kenosha. We'll go up and live there, but then work down there.
This is just very impressive. I think that by doing this, we're ahead of probably 80% of communities, if not more than that. That's my impression. And I know we didn't initiate it, but in the very first or second planning meeting we had, my colleague Frederick Brookhouse, we're both on the planning PDIC, it's called PDIC committee, the county PDIC committee. And this is one of the key things we had been addressing, the leadership, that we wanted to move ahead with housing. Yeah, remember that when we talked about that? And this seems to hit it out of the park from what we were thinking about. It's a home run.
And I'm glad you're mentioning the,
Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, through the chair to my colleague Frederick, if I kind of asking the questions,
Sure.
okay, if he addresses, thank you so much for the decorum.
Let's go ahead.
I'm glad you're bringing to our attention this imbalance between workforce and having people live here, and people living here and working in Illinois, for example, because that's an important component of this that I think we observe.
Yeah.
And glad to hear it from you.
Back to me, thank you. This just seems to hit it out of the park from what we were thinking about, though. And it's going through our committee. It's with Andy and the Savannah and UW Extension and planning.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, and I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Kirby.
Yeah, so I have a question. As we're going through this process, are we looking at ways in which maybe we could make it less cumbersome from like a planning and development standpoint for builders to create housing that's actually affordable? I know my family could not afford a new home in Kenosha. There's absolutely no way. It's a good thing we already own a very old one.
Yeah, that's part of the planning and zoning.
Okay,
I mean, part of that too is, so if you don't know, the city is basically trying to rehaul their entire process.
Mm.
So that Andy's group's kind of been sitting back a little to see what the city comes up with, to see if there's anything we can piggyback off of that.
because I know there's things like smaller lot sizes, you can have smaller homes, you don't need a 3-car garage, things like that can really bring the price down.
All right, well, thank you for bringing this report to us. Continue the good work.
And I left my card if anybody's got any questions afterwards or comments, or would like something added or something maybe we're missing, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, sheriff resolutions up.
Good evening, Lieutenant Markowski, Ryan Markowski from the Sheriff's Office to propose the addition of 2 school resource officers. One would be for Salem Lake School District, which would be utilizing a currently unfunded position. And then one would be for the Silver Lake School District, which would be a new position. Those would be funded by the schools through the school year, or the school districts through the school year. And then in the summertime, Salem Lakes has agreed to fund those positions, and they'd be additional officers to Salem Lakes for the summertime.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval.
Supervisor Kirsten moves approval. Is there a second? Supervisor Nudo. Second, any questions or comments on the resolution? Supervisor Kirby.
Do we currently have school resource officers in those schools? Is this an addition or is it a new thing?
They started on January 1st. We have one at Salem Grade School and one at Riverview.
Okay.
Was one of those the original pilot program?
Riverview was the initial, they came on board first,
Okay,
and then Salem soon followed after. So they actually both started relatively the same time.
all right, it's not pertinent to this resolution, which I support wholeheartedly, but I've asked the finance director to put this on for next month, just to hear where we are with others and to dive in a little more and ask more questions about them. I don't expect you to do that right now because you're presenting a resolution, but I'd like to, before I go, hear how that is going from the, nuts and bolts standpoint. So just a heads up. So any other questions or comments? Okay, the resolution is moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Kenosha County 2020, you just wanted to throw me off. Kenosha County 2024 Medical Plans and Administration Audit. Clara?
Good evening Supervisors, Youth and Governance. I'm just going to do a brief introduction and then I'll hand it off to some visitors. As you may recall, Kenosha County transitioned our medical claims administration to a company called UMR in 2024. That was after our former administrator, Humana, left the market. Last year, we engaged our brokers, Brown & Brown, to assist us with finding a vendor to conduct an audit of our 2024 claims, just to assess the quality of our claims administration. New vendor, wanted to make sure they were doing a good job for us. We contracted with a company called CTI in June of last year. We got those results. The county executive asked that we present it to the Finance and Administration Committee, so we're here to do that this evening. One option was to bring our auditor here, but that would have come at an expense, a travel expense. So Brown & Brown was gracious enough to come on board and present to us so we could avoid that additional expense of bringing them on site. We'll go through the results with you, which are good results. If you have any questions that we need to reach out to CTI for, we'll certainly do that and give those answers back to you. With that, I'll introduce Laura Tank and Mike Newberger from Brown & Brown.
Thank you very much for having us. As Clara said, I do want to acknowledge this is the work product of CTI, but happy to be here to present this to you. So on slide 1, so very simply put, and please, let me know if you have any questions, or obviously at the end as well, address any questions that you have. The audit itself was composed of 4 main components, one being a random sample of 125 claims. So that doesn't sound like a lot, I know, but it is statistically sound with a confidence level of 95%. We did look at increasing that, but it really didn't move the measure on that confidence level, and it would have come at additional costs. So also with that 125, they stratify that so that your lower cost, higher volume, there's a proportionate amount. So those are being reviewed as well as your larger, more complex claims. So that 125 is stratified across all those ranges of spend, if you will. The second component was absorbing 100% of the claims and reviewing 25 targeted. So UMR is, they're cautious on these audits, if you will, but they do agree to allowing this 25 claim audit. And those are targeted specifically for coding, compliance, fraud, waste, and abuse. So they know very pointedly what they're looking for there. On an operational review, this was an extensive questionnaire, administrative management interviews with UMR. We have a full detailed report of that. And then last is the plan document, just to make sure that it is clean, clear, understandable, and the claims are being processed accordingly. So on the next slide then, the objectives, if you will. So the goal with UMR is to make sure that the contract terms were followed. Claims are paid according to the plan documents. They're clear and consistent, and we have a comment related to that. Verification that the claims are paid for eligible members, and then also detect and report for any claim administration systems, processes, and anything that needs improvement. So throughout this process, it was over a couple of months, but results were shared with Kenosha County on an ongoing basis on a weekly report. And then as we received the more detailed findings, that was reviewed again with our office in Kenosha County. And on agreement of that report, there was a meeting with UMR to go over those findings and have them respond to those issues as well. I think slide 4 then really gives us the, if we could go one more slide. Sorry. There you go. You don't want me reading this one to you. So, this is the random sample, that 125 claim sampling. And what you're seeing on this page here, the median is based off of CTI's audit. So the audits that they have done with UMR in total. And you'll see in the maroon on that right-hand column, that's Kenosha County's conclusion of the audit. So for financial accuracy, accurate payment, accurate processing, you can see that Kenosha County administration with UMR is above the median and also had really good outcomes. So for first year, this really was important to make sure that the plan was built correctly, that there were no systemic errors that were happening. And overall, that's a really sound and we can talk through some of those differentials, if you will, that we weren't at exactly 100%. We also want to look at how quickly a claim is paid, and on a median for that too is within 5 days. So good outcomes across the board with that. So on the next slide, just diving just a little bit deeper on some of those findings. With the random sampling, 125 claims, what was found on claims, everything is coded. Every service, the time, the level of difficulty, there's modifiers, and that, you know, adjusts maybe the skill level, who is attending, if it was a physician, nurse practitioner. And what they found, this error was one of those coding modifiers. There was a typo, if you will, and that was reducing those payments by 50%. So overall, underpayment was a little over $2,000, but it was to that detail is how they were managing the audit. So they did UMR, they did that correction and adjusted that PPO discount so the payment was accurate. With a targeted sampling analysis, this is where they did identify 4 specific issues. There was a claim found that was paid incorrectly for weight loss. It was a manual error. Unfortunately, the same person who gave incorrect information that it was covered also processed the claim. That person is no longer working at UMR, so coaching was not necessary. Upon identification, UMR did agree and has reimbursed Kenosha County for that overpayment. Weight loss surgery is not covered under your plan. This is why that was an error. Durable medical equipment, there again was an error found here where if someone is renting a durable medical equipment and then later purchases, they should have the credit of what was spent during that rental period. And unfortunately, that didn't happen on a portion of claims. So that was identified and those claims were adjudicated as well for that correction. There was one claim, about $50, that was a manual claim, again, unfortunately. So that was a duplicate claim payment and that has been corrected as well. And there were certain, this is where the two didn't agree between the auditor and UMR. There were certain preventative services that were denied. CTI felt that those should have been payable. UMR's standing was that they were not billed correctly. At the end of the day, the member is not going to be billed for those. And if the provider does want the payment, they just need to make a correction to that. So that was the one item that there was no action taken. Other observations, they were not errors, but called forward. There was an example of a situation, genetic testing occurred without an office visit. This is questionable. Their genetic testing does require prior authorization starting in January, so it's not an overt concern, but just something that they did identify. And there was some plan language related to tobacco addiction, which is an ACA compliant. It does need to be covered at 100%. Was not very clear in the plan document, so we're working through making those adjustments. And that will be for the plan document for 2026. So on slide 6, I don't want to be redundant. I did speak to some of the actions that were taken, but just by point on each of those that I spoke about on the prior page here. with the PPO discount calculation error, that was the 2,500 that was adjusted for the additional payment that was owed. That ESAS findings, that's where we took the 100% of claims focused on 25. They did agree to refund the county for the weight loss procedure. They will and have provided the documentation and reporting to help support the audit. And then also there was conversation about modifying the fraud, waste, abuse screening protocols for that same day genetic testing without an office visit associated with that. And then, as I mentioned, with the plan document, there's some clarification, not just on tobacco addiction, but we're looking at some other items as well, just to make it a little bit clearer for a member as they seek out what their benefits are. So in conclusion, it really was a good outcome. Support that the implementation was well done. About 91% of claims were auto adjudicated. So that concern about those manual errors, that's not common, but unfortunately can happen. Are there any questions?
Supervisor Houston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So ACA requires some things to be paid, right?
They do.
Like colonoscopy,
Yes, yes,
but not an echo
no.
and not a genetic test.
No, those would not fall. So there's the United States Task Force for Preventative Services. I may not be giving you the specific title, but they develop what is considered preventive or not. It's really not something UMR or any other carrier, but to your point, yes and no,
Yeah.
right?
So does this analyze compliance with ACA?
It did, yes,
And so we're good with ACA.
you are.
And although we're at this really good way above the median, can I tell that the dollar error rate was immaterial?
It really wasn't material.
Do we know what it was?
For,
The dollar, was it 1,000,000,
in total for
10,000?
for all of the items that I specifically mentioned,
That's okay. You don't have to tell me and you don't have to find it. I'm assuming it was immaterial. What is our budget? 20 million? I forgot.
So the total amount of paid claims for that year was about 17 million.
Yeah, and that's not the drugs, right?
No.
Oh, and we didn't audit drugs. This audit the prescriptions.
No.
You gotta go along with with my nomenclature. I got the floor still, right? So you have to
You do,
look
but
at
if you keep talking about drugs, just keep going.
So we didn't audit that, right? Is that to come? Cause that's where I find more errors and stuff like that.
We can look into that.
All
We
right,
don't have a plan.
so we don't have a plan to audit audit prescription. We don't have a plan to audit that.
Not at this time, not really.
What does it take? So it would, is that something we would put in a 27 budget to do that? Or once you get through all your conversions and everything, so maybe 28. So, okay, good. I yield. Thank you.
and to answer your question, I would say under 40,000.
Oh, that's pretty darn good on
Majority of that,
$17 million.
Yeah.
Jeez.
and the majority of that was refunded back to.
Yeah, and we got reimbursed, so it's almost zero. So that's really good. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So that's why it wasn't the number of errors found, it was the dollar compared. That's how we got 99%. Because, I mean, if you look at 25 targeted outcomes and there's a problem on 4 of them, that's a significant number of 25. But if they're worked out and small and not paid, then that doesn't hurt the percentage. Am I reading that right? Or I don't do audits,
No,
so
The targeted, yes, is where they identified that one, weight loss surgery, but it was the 125 claims that are measured with that very high, audit score.
okay,
Well,
okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hey Wyatt. You're up.
I'm up. Thank you for having me, everybody. So I did bring a copy of this report. In fact, if it's okay, I'll pass it around the room so that everyone can have their copy. So I'm here to discuss the ongoing projects over at the Kemper Center County Park. So as I start to go through it, if you have any questions, please let me know, but there are a lot of familiar projects on here. There's also a couple of new projects just to sort of keep everybody in the loop as to what we're doing. So for the chapel repairs,
Hold on, let me get my copy.
you got it.
All right, thank you. Proceed.
All right. So we are this close to being ready to bid on the project. We have been working with Enberg Anderson to create a plan set for specifications and a drawing set that we can give to a general contractor and use for bidding. So this project has to go to bid. It's being over $25,000. The total budget for the project is $250,000. With Enberg Anderson having nearly completed this, we're just finishing a few lighting things. They will do construction oversight to make sure this general contractor is following everything that we're asking.
What's the ETA on that?
So they have a few more things they need to do. Last time I spoke with them, they said this week, but I don't like to be optimistic. So I'm hoping to release the bid next week. They estimate the project should not take too much time to complete, on their timeline, about 4 weeks. I've talked with Kemper Center Inc., their new executive director, as well as the board, and they're comfortable with the timeline. It ought to be done before the end of April, but they don't have any weddings in the chapel until the end of May. So that gives us a lot of buffer room for any change orders or anything that we find that we didn't expect to find.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on. So we have a section there for miscellaneous repairs, and that's really just reporting to the committee here that the Parks Department staff continues to do projects as they arise. We address more immediate concerns, so any issues that might happen from mechanical failures to damage done through winter storms or even renters, which has happened. A lot of window replacement, things that our staff can handle that they're trained to handle. Moving down to the facility condition assessment. I brought a copy of it here if anyone enjoys some light reading. What that is an assessment that was done of the entire building. So the assessment went through specifically focusing on the foundation of the building itself, but also assessed the interior of the building, as well as the things such as the windows, carpeting, flooring, anything that we need to start paying attention to assist us with capital project planning going forward. So through working on this report with insights, we identified a couple of areas that need immediate attention, and that includes areas in the chapel, not the cosmetic repairs, which I'll refer to the chapel repair project as more cosmetic. We're doing plaster work, painting, carpet. This is more foundational concerns that we have at the chapel. Number one was a life safety risk that we flagged for the balcony. The railing on that balcony is not safe enough to support anybody up there. So that has been closed to the public since we received the report back. And it is part of this project, the chapel repair project. And I have the plant specs here if anyone wants to take a copy to replace that rail. So that was added to the project once we learned about that. Underneath the chapel, there's some foundational concerns. We have no concerns now that it's going to fall or anything scary of that nature, but there does appear to be some movement at the bottom. So we're working with a structural engineer after being pointed in that direction to take some measurements. And they will, over time, measure and see if it is moving and what steps we need to be taken to remediate it. All right. Moving on to the shoreline. So for those who are unfamiliar with the shoreline restoration project, the goal of that project is to redesign the entire revetment along the shoreline through the Kemper Center and the Anderson Arts Center. I brought some photos just so that anyone who hasn't been out there or has not seen it after a winter storm can sort of understand what we're working with. Over the years, what has been put there as a revetment, which is supposed to be a breakwater for water coming off of Lake Michigan, is mostly old concrete sidewalks or asphalt driveways and roads. So it's not meant to last very long. There were several winter storms in 2015, 2016, and 2020 that did significant damage. And what the Parks Department had to do during those winter storms is add in some additional revetment, what they could get at the time. limestone, smaller limestone. It's not packed properly and it's quite frankly too small and not meant to last very long. So back when John Rudy was still here before Matt Collins was the Parks Director, they worked with an organization called Bayer to create a design to redo the shoreline. That was at a price tag of $34 million. After talking with some of my peers over at the city, as well as a new engineer, Red Barn Design and Engineering, that is believed to be far overestimated and over-designed. So if anyone's familiar with Kennedy Park or Third Avenue, Red Barn Design and Engineering did those shorelines. So we're working directly with him. He's actually coming out of retirement to do this project. He's proud to call it his last project. So the idea will be to, instead of follow the contours, which has been done over the decades, is to go and throw more revetment wherever we're seeing any sort of erosion, is to cut through the contours of the shoreline, just like Third Avenue, just like Kennedy Park, and pack it in with large armored stone granite revetment. And that will not move. He expects it to be a 100-year shoreline when it's done. So we're in the contracting stage with him. We have capital funds to pay for the design phase. Once we finish the contract, we're already set up to start the test pits and get designing the shoreline.
What do you expect a timeline on that as far as seeing something maybe done?
So we expect the design to be done at the end of this year. As soon as that's complete, we will sign another contract with Red Barn Design and Engineering to do construction oversight and do the construction in 2027. It should take the majority of the year in 2027. And when we get to the RFP stage of the Kemper Center operations, it's included in that RFP that middle section will not be available. It'll have to be, it's referred to as a soccer field at the moment, but it's the middle grass section between Anderson and Kemper. That will be used for site staging. So there will be equipment there for almost all of 2027.
Thank you.
All right. The new project that's on here is the stained glass window repair project that we're working on. So as part of the facility condition assessment, as I mentioned, they did not just do the foundation. They also did the square footage analysis that Supervisor Belsky was asking about, as well as the windows. So we're working with a company right now, Willett. They did a survey of the stained glass windows to give us a budget estimate of what it would cost to repair the ones that are critical. So I had them rated by priority. There's some that they put in their overall report that they're degrading. They don't look very great, but they're still holding. We're focusing on windows that might fall out of the actual wall that are starting to bow or create a bowl shape. A lot of stained glass windows, at least when this building was created or built, used lead as to seal all the different pieces together. And it's failing. So we're focusing on windows that are going to fall out and not ones that are degraded. It's good to have this information. We know which windows to keep an eye on in years to come, but for this year, we're focusing on the dirt condition. Those ones are in critical condition, and we're hoping to get those done this year. That's the goal. We want to get a design done. The reason we don't have a strict timeline on this one is I don't know how long the design process will take. We've never done a project like this before. So we'll do a bid for design services for this project. Once the designs come back, we'll move right into construction. And we're working with Kemper Center Inc. very closely to monitor their schedule. And we're aggressively trying to avoid any work on the interior during the summer months so that we don't conflict with any wedding rentals or funerals or anything they're going to need built for. And I have copies of everything if anyone wants to take a look. And that's what I have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Supervisor Pearson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair to Wyatt, when you get the engineering documents for the shoreline, could I look at those, please?
Yes, absolutely.
You don't have anything even preliminary yet at this point, right?
We don't have anything at the moment.
Good.
I do have the previous designs. They will be quite different.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at what we're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, as soon as we have usually they go by percentages. So the first draft of it will be 35%.
I get it.
Yeah. So when we have those, I can give you a copy once we get.
And then I'd like to walk through as we progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. That's my question and I yield. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Audit of bills. One. Human Resources, Claire, you have something?
Hello again. So I am pleased to report to all of you that we have finally completed a full review of our Kenosha County Safety Manual. We worked with our safety consultant, Gordy Koch of Fair Graham. Fair Graham are the safety consultants that do our annual safety training for Public Works each year. They know us very well. For not having been reviewed for many, many years, our safety manual was actually in really good shape. We only needed to do some minor revisions to the manual, to the policies. As you can see, it's in excess of 200 pages. There are many policies within the manual. I did bring some red line copies. I didn't want to waste too much paper, so if you want a copy, you can certainly have one. Or I can email you one. But with that said, again, we only needed to make minor revisions to bring them up to speed. So this is really just an informational report to committee. Content changes within the manual. You will note if you get one, they're in color. But overall, things that changed in here that I didn't redline to keep it from being too busy. We of course updated our logo throughout. Titles that were out of date. So the last time this was updated was in 2006. So things like the personnel director was updated to human resources director. References to risk manager were updated accordingly because that position we haven't had since 2015. And then references to citing different policies and regulations, for example, Department of Safety and Professional Services, which was created in 2011. So that didn't even exist, but this was done. And then lastly, I'll just mention material safety data sheet. If any of you are familiar with MSDS, it's no longer MSDS, it's just SDS. So things like that were updated. Otherwise, one policy was incorporated into the manual. That's the last one, our key access policy, which existed outside of the manual, but I felt it appropriate that it is within the safety manual. So that's what I wanted to report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Thank you. Eddie.
In the absence of Lana and Matt, I'll be presenting the general fund report this evening. I'll have a copy of which time is also on display. The general fund report shows yearly break even from November's report with material swings in both increases and decreases, but the overall deficit decreased by $10,000, bringing the total reduction to $225,000. The unassigned reserves are now projected at 28.75% of general fund expenditures, as shown in the box at the bottom of the form. Starting at the top, there are some key factors that changed from last month. Human Services operating surplus increased by $1.6 million, driven by savings from placements within Child and Family Services and Behavioral Health, and other revenue increases in Health and Aging and Disability. Moving on to sales tax revenue decreased by $250,000. November collections were the second highest for the month, however, much lower than 2024's record November sales tax amount. Year-to-date collections are up 7.6% compared to last year. 2025 has had 5 record-breaking months in total. We do not have our December sales tax figure yet. We will get that sometime next week or possibly the following week. This month's report introduces an expected reduction in the balance sheet amount due from Brookside of $750,000. The most recent Brookside financial report shows a projected year-end surplus of $2.5 million. As a reminder, this amount due as a result of prior year deficits in Brookside covered by the general funds. The elected office revenue line has decreased by $140,000, primarily from a deficit in the Register of Deeds fee/transfer tax revenue account. Workers' compensation insurance surplus was reduced by $125,000 as we received our preliminary IBNR number from Milliman, our actuaries. Additionally, liability insurance surplus decreased by $25,000 due to additional claim activity. The IBNR is expected to be received next month. Now moving to items contributing to a decrease in the general fund. The sheriff's expenditure deficit increased by $1.1 million, primarily due to the usual cost drivers, overtime, inmate medical, pharmaceutical expense, and food costs. The sheriff's operating revenue deficit increased by $100,000, driven by a lower number of federal detainees and lower extended supervision revenue. Health insurance deficit increased by $300,000 because of higher year-end claim activity. General fund investment interest revenue decreased by $200,000 from softer interest rates and lower unrealized gains compared to the last year. Finally, the tax delinquency reserves increased by $100,000. This estimate will come into sharper focus as property tax payments firm up in the next few months. And that concludes the general fund report. Does anyone have any questions?
Supervisor Nudo.
You mentioned something about the register of deeds. Could you repeat that, please? I don't see it here. What am I missing?
I believe that's in the miscellaneous line. No, it's in the circuit court county clerk register of deeds revenue surplus.
Yeah. And you say was what, how much? 100?
Surplus of 100.
Yeah, the elected office revenue line has decreased by $140,000, primarily from a deficit in the register of deeds fee transfer tax revenue.
For the year 25.
Yes, yes, it's still the 25 general fund.
So
Have
it
not
was
missed
we did not get what we were projected.
correct.
$150,000, but we still went up for the 2026 budget.
That I,
Okay,
Yeah,
I understand. It's okay.
no,
Just a comment.
no, we decreased the fee transfer tax budget revenue in 2026 by $40,000.
I thought it was brought up from 600 to 675.
She may have entered her budget at 600 and we felt 675 was a more accurate representation, but it was still a decrease from the current year.
For the year before was 600 and then the current 600.
I would have.
But that's
to-
okay.
Do you-
You can check and let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn? I'm just having so much fun. Second. Moved by Supervisor Gearson, seconded by Supervisor Gama to adjourn and break up this fun. All those in favor? Any opposed?
That was you.
All right. We're adjourned.